What I hear there is a kind of a corrective. We were talking earlier about going out to serve.
Yes.
But if it's not also to learn, to celebrate.
I didn't say the word symbiotic yet. Oh, because it's the relationship has to be symbiotic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's not patriarchal,
It's not.
saviorism.
No.
It's really, we go to celebrate, to see, to be curious. What's our, and that goes back to the core thing I would say about the prison. All those years, it's not that I would take Jesus to the prison. It's that I go to the prison, find Jesus who's already there, and I experience Jesus there with those men in ways I've never experienced Christ before. So whoever that is. So inviting you into this third part of my conversation with Keith Reynolds and Robert Caldwell, I want to reflect back with you on where I began. This is an invitation that comes through the vocabulary of James Cone, the theologian who wrote The Cross and the Lynching Tree, and also this was documented in the novel To Kill a Mockingbird. Do we know how to put on the shoes of our neighbor and to walk around in those shoes for a while? I want to suggest that this is the contemplative listening practice. This is what defines how I bring contemplation and justice together. The question is what we're listening to, who we're listening to, how we perceive the world, and through what lenses we're understanding reality. Back in all those years that I served as a corporate worship leader, I had the gift to teach a course at the local college, a course I titled The Theology of Music and Worship. And within that, I made this argument that what worship really is, what we're doing, is sacramental. It is a way of coming together to rehearse the real, what we believe is real about the world. So here at this intersection of contemplation and justice, I'm inviting you to consider the real, the sacramental nature of the real of our neighbors. So I'm inviting you to consider that in our worship life, the sacramental nature of God includes the other. What is a sacrament anyway? It is one of those things in our created world that we can partake of and through which we participate and take into ourselves the very life of God. The invitation here is to consider that in the mode of the body and the blood, the bread and the wine, as we participate in the lives of others, we are taking in the life of God. And so this othering, this paying attention to others, to listen to them well, is not something we have to do out of some sort of moral obligation. This is the abundant life of God. It is the way that God designed for us to encounter Him in and through each other. Another way I'll invite you to consider this discipline of gazing upon the real in and through the other comes by way of the missiologist Leslie Newbigin in his book, The Gospel in a Pluralist Society, where he writes about evangelism, this question of how to help others come into faith. He suggests that to bring someone to faith is to invite them to look over our shoulder, to see the kingdom of God in and through our perspective, to see what we see. So, what Keith and Robert have been doing in this conversation with us is inviting us to see the world over their shoulders, to see reality through their perspective, through their lens, that I would interpret my understanding of the world, of God in the world, in and with and through them. And a final thing that comes to mind as I introduce this episode is something that keeps showing up in my newsfeed. It's a bit of a conversation with the theologian N.T. Wright. The clickbaity title that has shown up again and again is N.T. Wright says, Western Christians have misread heaven, the end times, and spiritual warfare. But if you skim down to the bottom of this conversation, he has some profound things to say about the church that I think help frame what we're trying to do here in this conversation. And in this sacramental paradigm, he says, all those who believe in Jesus belong in the same family and the same table, he said, adding that Ephesians 2 shows God's intention to unite Jew and Gentile, symbolically healing humanity's deepest divides. When Judean and Gentile come together in Christ, that is the sign of that new creation. The church in the unified diversity becomes the new temple where God dwells by the Spirit. Modern-day congregations, however, accept ethnic and cultural separation as normal. Now we have black churches, white churches, Chinese churches, this, that, the other, and we don't think that matters, Wright said. Paul would be absolutely horrified. The vision he emphasized has nothing to do with political agendas. And T. Wright says, watch my lips. I'm one of the least woke people you could meet. The early Christian church, Wright said, was history's first truly multinational, multi-ethnic family, and the visible proof that Jesus, not the, quote, principalities and powers, is the Lord. Our task now, Wright said, is so to believe in the God of the gospel that actually we can grow churches that exemplify this idea of the small working model of the new creation. Here, as we begin our new year in January of 2026, I hope you have new hope to believe and to join me in this discipline of practicing this model of the new creation. And so this is why I am so excited to see this church plant that Keith is imagining. Can we believe that our coming together, the ways that we listen to God in and through others, can that demonstrate God's sacramental presence on this earth? As we start this new year of 2026, I invite you to consider this as a possibility for how we pursue what is real and true in this new year. Amen. It might not look exactly like we thought it would.
Yep.
But it'll come about.
Yep.
So that was a great anecdote.
Yeah.
For you to share.
Yeah.
It was vibrant. It brought me right into the scene, imagining you there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pointing down. That's where, if you can help me handle this.
Yep.
As the white dude trying to settle into this learning curve.
Yeah.
And inviting others into understanding. As a musician, Questlove did a series on the Black genius within musicians. Thinking about your boy, you really like, I can't remember.
Jazz?
No, he did the musician that you put one of his songs on one of your Instagram things. I do them all the time. It's gonna be jazz or R&B. It'll come out to me.
Yeah.
But just this idea that suffering and the history of suffering requires the imagination to see things that can't otherwise be seen.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
So that's what I hear
is
a kind of collective genius here that you're bearing witness to. And you might not it might embarrass you to carry that heaviness of genius. But if we said that's the genius of the Spirit through you and with you, what would you say about that? It's this idea like, let's make America great again. Well, what's made America great, if you look at the 1619 Project, is the history of these people who could have revolted.
Yeah.
They could be violent. And this is the caricaturization that the current manipulators want to say about people of color.
That's it.
It's horrifying.
Yeah.
But if they could actually see the story of people of color, immigrants across the board, these are the people that have made America as rich.
Yeah.
So again, when it comes around to this question of whether you want to use DEI vocab, whatever, why would we do this? It's because it's already happened.
Yeah.
And whether we can sit back and be grateful and to continue to learn from this genius.
Yeah.
So there is a kind of witness that you have. So that's where I hear that, of course, you'd want.
That's it.
This witness.
Yeah.
The create all these years of what you've stumbled into.
Yeah.
That we need that. So I want to say thank you.
Yeah.
But is there anything else you'd want to tease out as I try to hold that as carefully and respectfully as I can?
Well, it's the kind of thing when you characterize it that way, I have a growing appreciation.
Sly and the Family Stone.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. So I have as I said at the very onset of our gathering, I have a growing appreciation for everything that you said, because it's because Robert has mined his pain. He's allowed himself to go from brokenness to contrition, from jagged edges, literally to the state of dust, so that God can reanimate him with his Spirit and offer his life in the way that he does. And that's the cheap way of describing that, is that he's repurposed his pain. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The trials and the suffering. And because of it, like, he is more cruciform. He is the offering. He is the libation that God has poured out, and many partake of the goodness of his life. And so two things, and I can say this real simply: I'm gonna keep partaking, and gleaning and drinking and staying close, and I want to be more like that in everything. And so how I show up to lead these conversations, I try to show up in a way that is honest, sincere, and abandoned. I try to show up in a way that recognizes the voices at the table. You've been to the meetings, and to give space for how God might, through some unsuspecting voice, provide perspective that is so desperately needed. I try to steward the responsibility that I have as a point person in a way that invites other perspectives, because I've beheld it. You know what I mean? So I want to partake of a life that is more cruciform than any others that I've encountered, and I want to be that increasingly as I lead in public. So that's how I would respond.
I haven't heard that term cruciformed before. Mm-hmm. I don't have anything else to say about that. I just never heard that term before.
Is there any other way that you'd like to respond to that idea of the black genius?
Well, he certainly referenced it. I draw whatever strength I have or ability to persevere from the family, my family. I'm in Columbus, Ohio. I ended up being born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, because my dad's father lived down south in somewhere in Georgia. I don't think it was for Savannah. I need to query my aunt to. Oh, she passed away. I don't know if she wouldn't know. Obviously, she might have known. I didn't ask her. But he came from somewhere in Georgia, and he had just been shooting craps with a white man and beat him. He won. And the white man said he was going to kill him. And he had some relatives that had come to Columbus, Ohio. And so he came to Columbus, Ohio. He got out. He was probably teenage-ish or young 20s or in his 20s or something. Wow. And he came to Columbus, Ohio. He left where he was and came to Columbus, Ohio. And then married my grandmother. And, here we go. My dad and all the stuff. So I'm here. My mom's side of the family came from North Carolina area. And, they migrated came to, the North, worked in, my grandfather had all kinds of, I actually met my great-grandfather, met my great-grandmother. I think my grandfather died before I was alive, but he died before I was, there's a picture of our family, big family gathering, and my sister and I are little babies sitting on the floor. My great-grandfather's there with my great-grandmother, but he was dead before I was conscious to be able to interact with him. But my great-grandmother, I'm looking at this stove here. She lived in what can only be called a shanty house with a potbelly stove in the middle of the place to heat it. She had an ice box, and she had an outhouse
in Columbus,
Ohio.
Wow.
Yeah. This was back in it would have been through the 40s and 50s and 60, whatever, 30s and 40s when they were there. But I remember seeing all that stuff. But all that to say is that my family survived a lot. They persevered a lot, and so I just experienced it.
Yep.
I mean, nobody taught me anything per se. Yep. I just experienced it, and then I carried a mantle of my generation, was you had to persevere. I mean, I was the first person to graduate from college in my family, in that whole family tree, and so I persevered. I did not allow the circumstances to prevent me from trying to achieve or accomplish whatever I believed I set my mind to. And so that was just in me.
Yeah.
It was just in me. So I can't claim credit for it in any way, but I can certainly say that was in me. Yeah. And it was in these people who were my family because they had to survive. If they were, they had to survive. Yeah. And they did. So that's just what you had to do.
Yeah.
You're going back to when you're born, where you're born.
Yeah.
So you were rich.
Yeah.
Because of that context. So the ingenuity is not just through you, it's this larger story, which I am, to be honest, jealous of that capacity to have elders that, I guess my parents, to be fair, depression, big farming family.
Yeah.
But I think that what I'm trying to grow in for myself, let me just say it that way, is to embrace my ancestors and to see them. So it is a delight. Thank you for giving us that you are not a self-made man. Mm-hmm. That would be the other part of going back to the entrepreneur.
That's it.
I figured it out. This is my thing. This is instead of this is us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's so important in these times because part of Robert, as he shared earlier, his non-reactionary responses to things that are happening in our world is because he sat with dads, aunts who lived through the shitstorm in seasons past and still produced beautiful things, culinary arts, music, song, laughter, games. And I say that because we're not without a hope. And it's a living hope because if we choose to draw near to folk who have a story of how they came through, you know what I mean? And maybe you can't get physically close, but you can read their stories. Mm-hmm. You can read the books. Mm-hmm. If they overcame, by virtue of overcoming the shitstorm, it can be overcome again. But you'll never access it if you choose to be a self-made kind of a hero. You know what I mean? A hero maker, as the song would say. You know what I mean? Like get close to those voices, and find and increase your capacity to persevere and navigate.
And don't sleep on the opportunity to discover those people where you're going to go serve.
That's yes.
You know, and I think more than anything, I think I certainly referenced it. I grew up a working class kid. My mom and dad got up and went to work every day. I had my first job when I was 12 years old, delivering newspapers, and I've worked to earn some money every day since then in my life. What I learned when I immersed myself in the communities that I began to serve, those people are surviving.
Yes.
They're surviving. Yep. They're persevering. They're going that they literally are living in a shitstorm, and they taught me a lot. About how to do that. Now, again, I came with a lens that still had there's a defect in these people that needs to be addressed. But no, I learned a whole lot from them. So don't, there's some stories that you can read and some things to be told. But if you look in any low-income neighborhood, whether it be rural and farm or urban and in the city, if those people are alive, they are persevering. They are figuring out a way to survive. Working at the homeless family shelter when I was the director there, I had that insight about how people survive, unlike any of the differently complected people who had that role in the past or even put that whole thing together. And they just had not had experience with the families like that. I understood. And people respect you having an expectation about their capacity to do something. I mean, people respond to that because everybody else treats them as if they can do or they need, And that sets up the dynamic of dependence and, whatever. But I knew people could care for themselves if given opportunities and some of the resources they needed to go thrive. So you can learn a lot. And in fact, I would even argue that the people who will take this gospel message that you want to make known to them will take it, absorb it, get it, and take it farther than you all ever would. And being able to trust God with that reality is something else you need to take into this whole thing.
What I hear there is a kind of a corrective. We were talking earlier about going out to serve. But if it's not also to learn, to celebrate.
I didn't say the word symbiotic yet. Because it's the relationship has to be symbiotic. Absolutely.
So it's not patriarchal.
It's not
saviorism.
No.
It's really we go to celebrate, to see, to be curious. What's and that goes back to the core thing I would say about the prison. All those years, it's not that I would take Jesus to the prison. It's that I go to the prison, find Jesus who's already there, and I experience Jesus there with those men in ways I've never experienced Christ before. So whoever that is, whomever that is, one of the things I like to do with this podcast is not just talk about it. And I already sense there's a lot of God in this conversation. So thank you guys for listening with me. But just even to invite folks to think about how they pray, how they open themselves to God. Is there a tradition? Is there a hymn? Is there a prayer? Is there some movement that you turn to regularly that helps nourish you to keep this work?
Well, I'll answer that in a couple different ways. First, I am an external processor.
Okay.
And if, folks may know what that is, but it's the opposite of an internal processor. And so a lot of my experience of God and insight and revelation comes in conversations like this.
Great.
Yeah.
Me being able to talk out loud about what's going on inside of me. I do that. But late in life, in my early 50s, I discovered Richard Rohr. And if there is a practice that I began to incorporate, it was his emphasis on contemplation. And for this, from that midlife point forward, a lot of his work began to help me think and shape, the emerging season of my life. But the idea that I could find a way to be quiet and have quiet, and then watch what God does with my mind. I talk to myself a lot. I'm an external processor. So even though I am, turning inward, and I do this walking my dog a lot in the mornings, and it's like I'll have a couple hours every morning. My wife doesn't get up early. I'm an early riser, so I can be without interaction with people for a couple hours most every morning.
Wow.
And me and my dog, and I will. And so this is a practice now for me. I'll just be quiet and let my mind go and see, sometimes things get purged and sometimes things emerge as I'm doing that. And that's a Franciscan priest born in Kansas, famously. He was born in Kansas and didn't know whatever. And here he is, used by God to bring a vital insight about, really how do you flow with God and all that. My tradition, my family, my tradition, the hymns and the songs and the singing and music is still very, part of my life too. And I didn't realize that a lot of that hemming and hawing and moaning and whatever when I was a kid at church was contemplation. That was what Richard Rohr, that was contemplation. That was these folks meditating on God and allowing him to fill their hearts and shape their thinking and, be cathartic in their expressions of what was going on.
Well, that is a fantastic conclusion to this. That's what I'm trying to bear witness to, is that we can't do this work of service unless we have a richness in our inner life. The inner life is a mirror of the outer life. The power dynamics that are happening inside of us are the power dynamics that go out into the streets. And so
I want to just quote real quick from my morning reading. It's the book from Howard Thurman, The Inner Life and Social Responsibility. And it's a quote that had deep impact on Thurman. And it's from someone that he considered a mentor, a guy named Eckhart.
Or Meister Eckhart.
Meister
Eckhart.
Eckhart.
Yeah.
He says, I'll read just part of this because then it ends with something like a remixed version of this quote later. Meister Eckhart says that you can only spend in good works what you have earned in contemplation. And so he goes on to say that, Howard Thurman deeply interacted with that, and that became kind of like a dominant message through Howard Thurman for Martin Luther King and the entire civil rights movement, which Howard Thurman later began to say in his own way, that the inner life is essentially connected to world-mindedness. And so, again, this inner-outer dynamic, pretty dope. So,
I could sit here, just linger in that. A lot of goodness. That would be the contemplative move, is to let that experience linger, to bask in it, to recall it. Fundamentally, it's a gratitude. So, Robert Caldwell, it is good to know you. Thank you for sitting here, and Keith for inviting him in.
Yep.
So,
Awesome.
Amen.
Can you give me